Welcome back to Manufacturing Unscripted. This is part 2 of our 2-part review of the Automate trade show in June of 2026. I'm talking with John Kraus, sales manager at Promus Incorporated, once again looking at a couple different companies and talking about our thoughts on the trade show. We hope you enjoy.
This podcast is sponsored by Promus Incorporated, the leading provider of fully electric servo presses for manufacturing. Promus provides global support for pressing and motion control applications in multiple industries. With precise positioning and in-process force monitoring, your company will begin to see ROI on day one. Call 810-229-9334 or email sales@promusinc.com to speak with an expert engineer about your application today.
Welcome back to Manufacturing Unscripted. I'm your host, Peter Parsons, and this is part 2 of our Automate show recap. And I'm here with John Kraus, sales manager at Promus Incorporated. Good to have you back here, John.
Thanks, Peter. Part 2.
Part 2, yeah. 2 weeks flies by just like that.
Just like that. Yeah, part 1, you want to recap for everyone what we did?
Yeah, sure thing. So part 1, we talked about the Automate trade show, kind of where it got started, where it's going, Las Vegas next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also took a look at a couple of exhibitors at Automate, specifically ones that were using Promus products within their demos.
Correct, yeah.
And that was the Ames Lab at the Ohio State University and
Edgewater.
Edgewater Automation.
Yeah.
So this week we're going to kind of continue our conversation about Automate, and we're going to look at a couple companies that aren't actually using Promus, so it'll be a more unfamiliar territory for you.
Perfect. Again, just for the audience, I have never seen these videos, so first time seeing them just like you guys. We'll see what kind of funny things I have to say.
Yeah. So this time we're going to be looking at a couple different companies, just kind of listening to kind of their spiel, their pitch, what are they exhibiting and showing off at this trade show. So I think we're going to get started with this first one here. Let's take a look. Hi. We're here at the Automate trade show in Chicago, Illinois. I'm here with Torian at the DBR77 booth. How's it going, Torian?
It is absolutely amazing. Super happy to be here with you and here in Automate in my home city of Chicago, 2026. So what a better time to be alive than right now.
Yeah. Could you tell me a little bit about how the show's been for you so far?
It's been a great show for us. We've had an opportunity to really share the space with a lot of organizations that are driving automation forward, from software to hardware to robotics. And having great conversations with potential integrators and all of those that are in the manufacturing industry, and just the opportunity that's in front of all of us as we continue to automate and move things forward.
It's exciting to see just a little bit of everything and just all the different ways that these companies can come together, especially with a lot of these integrators that are kind of showing off all these new technologies kind of slowly meshing together to really provide new and innovative solutions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's funny because as awareness is increasing, you're seeing a lot more conversations, a lot more cross-pollination and ecosystems, new ways to partner, new ways to look at new issues. So there's a lot of reframing. That's what I talk about. A lot of reframing that's happening right now. Very exciting for us and all of our partners.
Yeah. So could you tell me about how kind of DBR77 fits into that ecosystem?
Absolutely,
what do you
absolutely.
guys do?
So people come to Automate 2026 and they see all of these wonderful opportunities, robots and platforms, hardware, software. Then they go back home and they say, so where do we start? And that's where DBR77 comes in. We cover the full spectrum of digital transformation, all the way from, hey, where do we start, where we have an area where digitally an organization can do levels of gap analysis, all the way up through, hey, we've identified an opportunity, we know we want some level of robotics or humanoid. How do we actually find, and then how do we actually integrate that into our current process in a way that is productive, safe, and secure?
So who are kind of your target conversations that you want to be having at this show? Who are the people that you want to be shaking hands with?
Anyone who is interested in digital transformation and how to where to start. We cover the full spectrum. So again, that could be from how do we see what's happening in the analog world and the digital world. So we utilize digital twins, our plant operating system, anywhere to, hey, we know we have a particular bottleneck and we know exactly what we want. We're just maybe looking for how to find it or the best way to optimize it. That's where our organization can really come in and help move the needle in the digital transformation process.
I fear this may be a question that you probably got asked a couple times, but DBR77, what does that stand for?
It stands for a few different things. I mean, the fun internal Pathfinder version is Death by Robots. Now, that's a joke. It actually came from our founder, Piotr. He's a fan of Aston Martin. He saw DB, which is a model that they have. The R is for robots, and then 77 is the year he was actually born. So I think Death by Robots is probably a more fun answer, but that is the actual accurate answer where it actually comes from.
Yeah. How long's your company been around?
We've been around for just about 10 years. We're focused in Europe. We're operators and come from an operator's background. So it's one of the reasons why we're looking at measuring, optimizing, and automating. And from there, we've moved into the digital space where I'm responsible for building things out in the United States. But almost a decade from a consulting, tier one automotive standpoint as operators.
Yeah. I'm sure it's been exciting to kind of see that slow transition, especially as everything's going digital, as people are looking a lot into, digital twins, online transformation.
It's been fun. I mean, part of it, what we realized, a lot of it is change, right? And when we're talking about human beings, we're talking about our ability to change. I think what's most important right now that we're seeing is the rate of change. I like to call it superluminal, but the rate of change is actually happening a little bit faster. And so as that's happening and more conversations are being had, you're seeing the appetite for discussion, pilots, and specifically in the physical AI world, because the consequences, the responsibilities are that much greater. You're talking about not only production, but human life.
Yeah, especially kind of seeing all this technology, it's great to have, it's great to, think how you could integrate this, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to implement it, in your existing systems with your existing employees, your existing infrastructure.
Absolutely. And that's where we attempt to add value with the organizations that we work with.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, Torian.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to having an opportunity to engage with you again.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, man. All right.
Nice video, Peter.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great being able to talk to Torian and just get to know his company a little better. One of the interesting things is this was a booth that was, for anyone that's kind of familiar with typical trade show layouts, at the entrance is where you'll have, your massive companies, your, really big booths. Those are the places that have really flashy technologies. It's, where you have the car that's being lifted by a giant robot. It's where you have the machines that are whirring at 100 miles an hour. And then kind of as you go a little deeper and kind of maybe towards the edges, you have a lot more of these like smaller booths, kind of, less of a footprint on the trade show. And I think a lot of people, they'll come to the trade show and, you look at all the flashy things. But I think it's really important and valuable just to, really take that time to look at these smaller companies. And, one of the reasons why you're at a trade show is to learn and to have conversations. And it's one of those things where people might not immediately, go back to this booth that's kind of tucked in the edge of the booth layout. But, to be able to have these conversations. I mean, talking with Torian, it was super interesting, and just listening and hearing kind of how he'll work with companies and just kind of that transformative, integration of new technologies and what that they're able to provide.
Well, we talked earlier, or last episode, should I say, about, this overwhelming amount of information that you'll leave with.
Yeah.
They help you with that. Felt like a really good booth to have at a show, right? And it also talking about how they're in the back, smaller booth, goes to the importance that you want to visit those small booths. I was left in the interview with, he's really intelligent. He really knows what's going on, and he could really help me with, all this information that I have in my head right now.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the immediate pitch that he gave was, you come to a trade show, you see all the technology, and now that you've seen it, what do you do with it? So, and I think that's something that's really important to kind of complement people that might be showing a new innovation, a new type of robot, a new AI platform, or however, to be able to take that and say, well, how can I apply that to my situation? How can I
Yeah.
bring that into my facility?
Yeah, yeah. So it looked like on the video there was a screen of sorts on the side. What was that doing?
Yeah, so kind of elsewhere in that booth, again, it was probably a 5-foot by 10-foot booth, so they pretty much just had one large TV.
Yeah.
But they were showing off some of the digital twins that they
Oh, I
had
see.
created. So some of the facilities that they had worked with, being able to kind of visualize it, do layout of the system. And I think what they were showing off was kind of an integration of connectivity. So if you want to go through, integrate something like, Industry 4.0, where everything's communicating and talking and connected to all these different databases, being able to kind of visualize from a top-down perspective of, these are all the lines, all the technology that's in my facility, and then to be able to kind of from a macro perspective see how it all connects, interacts, and if I need additional technologies or if I need additional management for that communication.
How about the name?
Yeah.
That was a cool name.
Yeah, I think with companies, a lot of times there's the urge to be, catchy or, very succinct or to kind of sound somewhat like, what it is you manufacture. But yeah, no, DBR77.
Death by Robots.
Death by Robots, yeah.
I loved it. Yeah, I feel like they should have put Death by Robots on their sign.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's a suggestion we can give them.
Catchy little tagline. Give that one for free.
There you go.
Yeah. But no, yeah, this was, I think for some people, if you're just kind of doing your quick loop of the trade show, this might be a booth that you kind of look at for 2 seconds and then.
Well, how do you look at it though, right? You're walking through the trade show, you have all these small booths. How do you get drawn to this particular booth?
Yeah, and that's the question I think that a lot of people have to kind of think about while they're going through the trade show. I know in this situation, they actually reached out to us before the trade show itself.
Love it.
Which, if any exhibitors ever want to talk with Manufacturing Unscripted, you're always able to reach us, podcast@promisinc.com.
See, that's interesting you said that they reached out to you, because one of the places that I was going with strategy around a booth like this is they probably have to engage people that are walking by rather than waiting for someone to engage them.
Yeah.
Right? Because nobody's going to walk by and say, oh, this is the perfect booth. Like, I've been looking for you necessarily, right? I haven't heard of DBR77 up until now. So being bold in the approaching someone, maybe just like walking through the aisle, I think is a very appropriate strategy that a booth like this probably has to take.
Yeah, and there's definitely like a nuance to that as well, because at least from my personal experience, I've been walking through the aisle and you get like the used car salesman type person where they stop you where you are. They're like, oh, what are you looking for? What do you need? You need this? And, they go into their kind of pre-programmed elevator pitch. And, sometimes you're not, you're just not interested, or it might be a company that you don't want to talk to.
Right.
But it all depends on how that engagement goes. Because sometimes you get the elevator pitch, and then other times you get someone that just has a conversation with you and just says, what are you looking for at this trade show? And especially I think what I've seen talking to a lot of these smaller booths is there are a lot more, we've been talking about, especially in last episode, like collaboration. So a lot of these small booths will, if it's something you're looking for that we don't provide, it's like, oh, we'll go 3 booths down and, they'll be able to get you what you need. And so being able to have a lot more of that, communal
give
atmosphere.
referrals. You should always give. I love that. As a salesperson, someone in sales, should I say, I love to listen to other people's pitches because there's a lot to learn from it, right?
Yeah.
I learned a lot from how he articulated what his company did. Just watching this interview, I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah. And it wasn't just like a compressed 30-second canned response to what does your company do? Because I think that's an especially difficult pitch to give if you work in either like simulation or in an advisory capacity.
It is.
Where it's not necessarily as simple as, look at this thing I make. It's, a lot of what the company can provide is dependent on what you are looking to get out of it.
Yeah, he did a good job. You also asked good questions, though, so I'll give you some credit as well.
I'll take all the credit I can get.
You got it, Peter.
But I mean, it's it's manufacturing unscripted. This isn't scripted. These videos aren't scripted. Talking with Torian, it was just very easy, and I think with most of these guests too, we have the little recorded bit, but even after the camera stops rolling, just continue talking, learning and just hearing about what the company does, how they present themselves, maybe some of the stuff that you don't necessarily want to put on a, your little introductory blurb, but talking about what markets do you work in? What do you do for marketing? What do you do for people that aren't interested, for people that are interested?
Building a relationship. Yeah, so important. Okay, well, we got a couple other videos, I hear. Is that right?
Yeah. Let's take a look at the next one right here.
Hi, we're at the Automate Trade Show in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm here with Chris from Dynex. How's the show been going for you?
It's been going really well. We get a lot of traffic, a lot of people, a lot of end users, a lot of partners, a lot of people who know us, people who don't know us. So it's been a good show for us.
Yeah. So could you tell me a little bit about what you're showing off here at the show?
Yeah. So Dynex, we're out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. We've been building industrial PCs, HMIs, work stands, power management tools for years. About 10, 15 years ago, we started our cybersecurity and networking division, and I'm pointing at it right now, and our software division. And this show's been really good. People have been coming by, varied interests, but we have a very diverse product line, and for just about anyone coming through, we got something to talk to them about.
Yeah, could you tell me a little bit more about some of those products?
Well, let's talk about this one. This is our OT-SDN, software-defined networking tool. We actually, in the booth, and you'll see this in a bit, we've created a show floor network to emulate a plant floor network, and we are controlling that network here. So we've got our industrial security appliance, we've got our industrial switches connected to PLCs and HMIs, and we're able to, I'm going to step back one step. We're in manufacturing, but we're also in every other OT vertical. And when we go and talk to a new partner, a new prospect, a new potential end user, we hear the same thing. Can you tell me what's on my network? Can you tell me what's talking to what? Can you tell me how it's talking? Once I know that, can I do anything about it? And can you map it? And our answer is, of course, yes, and yes, and here's how we do it. So what happens is, with our industrial switches, they can be layer 2, layer 3, or in software-defined networking mode. When they're in SDN mode, we take management of the switch off the switch and we put it on a controller. So when a device is plugged into that switch, it will then ARP to the controller. I get the MAC address, the IP address, and I get the MAC address a second time. So the operator just needs to rename the device per its plant's naming convention, put in a security zone, and now all the controls and protections for that zone are applied to that device. And so here's how it looks. So this is a topology page. This is our network. We've got 8 switches on our network. We've got about 45 devices. We've got a PLC here, and I'm going to show you this PLC, which is connected to port 4 of switch 3, who it can talk to on this network. So if I click on the PLC, and that's so I know it's a Rockwell PLC, port 4, switch 3, it can talk to all of these other devices with the yellow arrow pointing down. So that tells the operator in very short order, I know that PLC can talk to all these other devices. Furthermore, if I click on another device, I get the communication path between the two assets. So I've seen what's on the network, I've seen what can talk to what, now I see how they're talking, also I see the traffic rules that I'm allowing. So I'm allowing SIP, because it's a Rockwell device. I'm also allowing Modbus ping, and a couple of our own proprietary tools in OPC UA. So the operator of the network can manage his network with a simple and intuitive interface for an OT controls person who knows what should be happening on his network without having to have a Cisco certified network architecture degree, and it's very easy to manage.
And I assume too, looking at this, it's a web-based interactive tool.
Web interface, get to it from anywhere, manage it. If something new comes on the network, you see there's this little orange shield right there. That device, we don't know what it's doing. We don't know if we trust it yet. So it's in a quarantine mode and it can't talk to anything on the network. Yes. So this has resonated really well with the people coming through because everybody has that first question. What's on my network? And we can tell you that.
Yeah. Very interesting. And I assume too, this is very scalable for pretty much any
Very
size.
scalable, yeah. So this is a nice 8 switches. We have customers logging 100 switches, 1,000 devices, and I can compress this down and look over here. So it's a very intuitive, interactive tool. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to explain this all to me, and
All right.
glad to see you at the show.
All right, thanks, Peter.
Take care.
Nice video, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Dynex from Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty close to us.
Yeah, not
really
too
close
far.
to us, actually. Yeah, we're in Brighton, Michigan, for anyone who doesn't know. I know Dynex because they give away the swords.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's their little giveaway at the trade show. It's a 3D printed little extendable sword.
Yes.
And they, for safety reasons, it doesn't actually have a sharp tip to it, but kind of one of those, it reminds me of the little lightsaber toys. I had a kid where you would shake it and
You
the
go,
blade kind of pops out.
And it extends out. We have some at our house. Our kids hit each other with them all the time.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny because I don't think it necessarily represents what Dynex makes necessarily.
But I remembered it.
But yeah, it's something that, you keep around the house, you throw it in a junk drawer or whatever, and it's got a big Dynex.
It does
printed
on
it.
the handle, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. Great point. So I've always known Dynex for the PCs. So the industrial grade PCs, we'll call them.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're much more than that, which he talked about.
Yeah, in terms of kind of like network management and security.
Yeah, I had no idea. I would think that this would be kind of he did a good job at explaining what they do. I thought, it's not like the flashiest of. It's not like you got robots walking around and stuff. It's not the flashiest thing you could talk about, right? It's network management, PCs, things like that. He did a decent job at articulating kind of what they did. So I was impressed with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's something too where if you're in the manufacturing sphere, if you're working with networks or cybersecurity, it's a lot more meaningful than, if you're just kind of there like as a student or someone who doesn't work in that field necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the interesting things too is because for someone who either has this issue or you manage a large network or, your facility has hundreds of different PLCs and switches, this is really important to you. That'll kind of jump out at you, and this will be a great place to go and have that conversation about being able to integrate this software. So I think that's kind of one of the interesting things I think of when I hear people talk about that. I want to see everything, where it might not be possible, and you might be talking to people that you don't want to, or you might be missing out on conversations with people that have what you need. Depending on what you're looking for.
Yeah. I would think that they have a very specific target audience that they kind of like go after and talk to and so forth. I wouldn't think your like general automation person is probably talking with Dynex. Maybe I'm incorrect, right? Might be more like IT level type of controls engineer, maybe something like that.
Yeah. One interesting thing too is, and I'm not sure if it was kind of specifically said, but on the screen for anyone that's listening, there's a layout of a bunch of different network connections, network switches, PLCs, and it kind of draws lines between them.
Yeah.
Like he was mentioning, showing, what can communicate with what talks to each other.
Yeah.
And with that screen, that's not just a simulation. They actually had at their booth all of these different switches and PLCs and connectors. And so they could actually in real time go and unplug one
and
then
see
it would
what happened.
pop up on their screen. So I thought that was really cool, not only to be able to show off this technology, but to be able to show off an example.
It was a nice demo. Yeah, really nice demo articulating really what this is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like some booths suffer a little bit where because it's so specific, you kind of need someone to walk you through it. And I think in this case, had I not had him, had not had Chris there to explain it all to me, I would have taken a look at that and I wouldn't have really fully understood it. OTSDN, that might not be an acronym that I'm familiar with. And then, I'm not sure what's going on here. And then I walk on to the next.
Well, it shows
booth.
the importance of interfacing with the people that are in the booth so that they can help explain and walk through what's going on.
Yeah,
Right? You might not be able to necessarily tell everything just by the sign that you're looking at.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, just that level of, I think this is just a great example of it's it's kind of a symbiotic technology with a lot of what's going on right now. There's the huge push towards digitalization, digital twins, network connectivity, Industry 4.0. And as you are connecting everything in your facility, everything in your factory, there's this additional need for security and network monitoring.
He pointed that out.
He did,
pointed
yeah.
out that item that was on the network and they weren't sure what it was, so they weren't going to allow access to it. He did that very specifically on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a hot topic these days. I mean, you've seen in the news, like, something wrong happens, something bad gets on the network, it shuts the whole plant down. That is happening all throughout the world. I think he very particularly capitalized on making sure that you knew about that.
Yeah. And I think especially if you're going to have this demo, to be able to show off these scenarios that people are afraid of, where you have something that shouldn't be on the network, or you have something that you just have no idea what it is. Especially if you are maybe in a higher up, like a C-suite position, management level, you're not familiar with the kind of individual systems, and being able to kind of integrate this in to your facility, you can get that overview. You can kind of get a much more succinct understanding of what you have, rather than another screen he showed. It was just a wall of text, just a list of IP addresses. I think that might be what people are a little more used to seeing.
Yeah.
Which, as you can imagine, going through each individual one, cross-checking, there's a lot more intensity to that than just being able to kind of see a map and just know, well, this is there and this is there, and to point to each system and know where it is.
So did you get a sword?
I did get a sword.
Did you? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Just wanted to double check.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those things where I think, and this might be something a lot of people do, is, you'll talk to the companies you want to talk to, you'll look at all the different booths, but in the back of your mind, you're kind of looking at all of the stuff that people are giving away.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah. Or you see someone walk by and they've got a soccer jersey, or they've
Yep.
got a softball or something, and just kind of thinking like, well, where'd they get that? And what booth do I have to talk to get that?
Yeah, and everybody starts to talking, and it's like, oh, you guys are the ones that give away those. We've been looking for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife actually texted me on my way to the show this year and said, hey, the kids really need a new beach ball. Find a beach ball for them. I found a beach ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, there's that important niche of, that little expectation a lot of people have where, we want to get these little cool trinkets.
oh, yeah.
And, some people, they might go to a booth and talk to someone just to get that little trinket.
They might.
But you're still having that conversation. I mean, I think some people are a little more protective, where it's, well, we only want to give this out to
Yeah.
people that are interested, or people that are an actual lead for our product.
Well, it's marketing, right? It's
Yeah.
marketing. Like, I remembered the Dynex sword. I remembered that. It meant something to me. I got this many years ago. This wasn't Automate. I got a Dynex sword. It was many years ago. And I think part of that is, kind of why people do that.
Yeah, just to have that kind of lasting impact.
Yep. Okay, you got another video I hear?
Yeah,
Is that right?
we've got one last one to go here, and it actually features a Manufacturing Unscripted alumni.
Ooh, fascinating. Okay.
Let's take a look.
We're at the Automate show in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm here with Greg Lynn, CEO of PFF. Good to see you here, Greg.
Good to be with you, Peter.
Yeah, it's glad to finally meet you in person after having you on the podcast earlier.
Likewise.
How have you been enjoying the show so far?
So I took a big spin. It's great to see this many people here. I mean, it's always this size show, lots of exhibitors. I'm seeing a lot of construction technology, which is someplace we're not with Kilo, but it's a very dynamic, changing environment by definition. So it's good to see construction, robotics seem to be here. And then just lots of people. Much more foot traffic and attendees than last time I was here.
Yeah, definitely a lot of big demos, a lot of big exhibits,
Yep.
a lot to look at, a lot of robot arms,
Yep.
AI, all sorts of new advances in technology.
Absolutely.
And so here with PFF today in your booth, what are we showing off?
So we've got our Kilo cart. We've got it with 2 carts that are used by some of our customers, with bins for picking mostly. We also have one with no cart on it because we really provide the platform and whatever customer needs are with the cart, as long as the payload is 300 pounds and it's not too high up in the air. We can adapt to all kinds of different carts.
And that's these carts that are just kind of driving around right behind our backs.
Exactly. And you'll see some of the people, they'll have a person driving the cart, and the way they do that is either by having it follow behind them in a standard way, or like you just saw Nicole walk by. You can also, we have the only robot in the world that follows in front of a person. So without any training or special knowledge or technology, you can drive one around just by walking towards it, and within a few minutes you can really park it more accurately than you can when it's following behind you. So, because most people like carts in front of them, so that's sort of why we developed this following in front technology.
Yeah, and for those of you, our people out there that kind of listened to the episode where we interviewed you, just a lot of that really specific technology, it's more than just kind of looking at you and following you. There's like mannerisms that it's kind of learning and processes that it's adapting to.
For sure. I mean, people see like a following suitcase or maybe like a kid stroller that follows, and those are usually following with a beacon. Some robots have put just kind of blob following of a person. We've spent 7 years studying how people move in the built environment with things and with each other. So we detect an object, we track. Once we detect it's a person, we throw a skeleton on that person. We see how they're moving so we can predict where they're going to go. We record people walking in crowds and with each other so we know how close to be and how far away to be. To really work collaboratively with a robot, you want it near what you would call personal space. So we operate between 45 centimeters and 2 meters of a person when we're following them. And then we can travel autonomously. So if you're in an environment where you have trips that you're doing over and over again, you want to send the robot, a person just trains that trip and then can launch the robot back and forth. But even when they're traveling autonomously, they behave with pedestrian etiquette. So if they're going to overtake a person or be overtaken or avoid a person walking across their path, our dynamic obstacle avoidance, it's not just designed at somebody's desktop hypothetically. It's based on millions of frames of data of people moving around, turned into algorithms. And also when you see these people walking forward and back, we're using AI to smooth out the behavior. We still have algorithms as guardrails, but in terms of switching between states, we just have an AI model that's running that rather than a series of algorithms that get triggered.
So in a way, it's like these machines have manners, basically.
Totally. And that's, when we implement workers, they like us, which is not what you could say about all automation.
Yeah.
Because we assist them, we make them safer, we help them move goods around so they don't have to push and pull. But we do it with predictable, intuitive behaviors.
And I guess for anyone that's maybe not able to attend the Automate show, I know it's going on for a couple more days, but I guess what's kind of maybe your pitch that you'd give to someone that's, maybe a little familiar with this, kind of interested in maybe taking the next step? What would you kind of tell those people?
Well, it's AMRs, autonomous mobile robots. They have a lot of travel in fixed environments where things aren't changing every day and where you're moving goods on a very repetitive task. Or sometimes if you're like picking goods, you'll see a person, instead of having a robot follow them, they'll follow a robot. The robot will lead them to the station and show them what to pick, and they'll be working for the robot. Our pitch is always to say that's not what we do. And our robots are $17,000. So a lot of people come to us and they're like, oh, these are really affordable AMRs. And we're collaborative mobile robots. And so we really work in the environments where you're not looking to replace all the people, where you need people to do work, where the environment is more dynamic and changing, let's say daily or weekly. That's really where we add a lot of value. Otherwise, you can spend the money and grind your floors down and have AMRs. But that's like, 1% of the world, not even. And we're really focusing on that other 99%.
Yeah. Well, it's great to be able to kind of see them in person. For anyone at the Automate show, hopefully they get a chance to also take a look at these as well.
Yep.
I'm curious, is there anything that you're excited to see here at the Automate show?
Well, I mean, I'm glad to see that the industry is healthy. That's the big thing. Yeah. That our competitors in that AMR space, they're healthy, it's growing, there's investment in automation. I mean, at a kind of a 10,000 foot view, which is my job, I think that it's great to see how healthy robotics is right now in the United States.
Yeah, and I know just after day one, I think Automate announced, there were over 50,000 people, registered and attending the show. And just to see that much interest and that much participation in just keeping the industry alive and keeping it not only alive, but pushing forwards.
Yeah, I just checked in when I came with my team, and they said that it's triple the number of people they've talked to yesterday and this morning from the last show. So it's good to see that it's healthy and busy.
Yeah, always a good problem to have, having too many people to talk to.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to be able to talk to my podcast guests in their kind of company's environment.
Yeah.
So Greg was on Manufacturing Unscripted a couple episodes ago talking about PFF and the Kilo robot. So definitely if you're interested in hearing him talk more kind of at depth, specifically about, how the technology works, some of the more features that they have, definitely you can give that a listen or a watch.
Okay, so let's pause for a second. So PFF.
Yes.
What does PFF stand for?
So that's Piaggio Fast Forward.
And then you mentioned Kilo. What is Kilo?
So Kilo, that's the robot that was being shown off in the video.
Okay, one of the models of one of the robots.
Yeah, and that's the robot that is designed to follow a human.
Okay, yeah, I saw it following you.
Yeah, and like Greg was mentioning, there's kind of autonomous mobile robots that are just kind of doing their tasks. They're going back and forth without the need for any kind of human interaction.
Yeah.
And the Kilo is a little more, attenuated to working with people.
Okay.
And
collaborative.
Yeah, and having
kind of
the
our
opportunity to actually kind of work with one, have one follow me around. It's
how
really
did,
interesting
How did it
to
know
see.
to follow you, though? Did it have to scan you or something, or how'd that work?
Yeah, so there are some cameras on the front of it. I believe they're on the front and the back. And all I needed to do was to walk up to it, hit a button on the top. It took a little scan of me, and then it knew that I was in charge, essentially.
That is super cool. I actually did a little bit of research on this company because I was kind of fascinated. It looked like you buy one for your house?
Yeah, so this is their model, the Kilo that they have for a manufacturing environment, like a plant floor. It's built to hold, large amounts of loads, different parts, tools, anything like that. They also do have a smaller version. I think it's called the Gita.
Okay.
And that's like a personal robot. One you can like walk to the grocery store and you can put your groceries in it.
We should all get one.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I noticed in the video, he's wearing a different lanyard. What's with
Yeah.
the lanyard?
So the lanyard, at least from what I'm assuming, is Piaggio Fast Forward is an Italian company.
Okay.
So it looks to be the Italian flag.
That
kinda
makes sense.
Laid out in the lanyard there.
Yeah, it stood out to me. I noticed it. I actually, when I was at the show, I noticed people with those lanyards. I was like, oh, that's different. What is that? So it just stood out in my mind.
Yeah, just another level of customization and personalization you can have. Just to, even something as simple as the lanyard you wear is able to kind of speak about who your company is, what your company does, especially if you are maybe working in European markets. That's an easy indication. Like, oh, you work. It's a company out of Italy.
So the booth in itself, I saw you were walking around with the robot. Could like anyone come in and kind of interact with the robot and go through a demo? How did that work?
Yeah, that was the super cool part of it is, the way it was set up, it was a pretty wide open space. And so if you were interested, you could just walk up. You would have an exhibitor there kind of show you how to do it. But like I mentioned, you would just kind of walk in front of it, hit a button on top, and then it would follow you around.
That's interesting. So often you'll walk around a show and you'll just kind of look onto the next booth, look onto the next booth. Taking the time to walk in and interact might go a long ways.
Yeah. And just, being willing to step into the booth, something that, as you're walking by, you're seeing not necessarily the people running the booth interacting with the technology, but just other participants and other people that are at the trade show. And definitely cool just to be able to see the technology and use it for yourself. And I think that's one of the things that really kind of set it apart. And from my experience using it, just being able to kind of visualize, what are the applications that I could use for this and what ways could this be integrated into my facility. And I think one of the coolest parts about that is kind of like Greg mentioned, it's not just a kind of blind robot. It doesn't just follow you above all else. It actually has a lot of intelligence in it, and it uses a lot of trained data. And again, you can hear more about this on my conversation with Greg Lynn. But I believe he called it's like one of the only robots that has manners.
Okay.
And it will, like, if you're walking too slow, it will drive around you rather than just kind of following right behind you if you're going too slow. If you walk in front of it, it'll stop. You can even do things like hold a door open for it, and it will recognize, oh, the door is open, you're holding it, I will go through.
That's cool.
So it's definitely super cool, not only to talk about it with Greg and then to go to the trade show and see it in person.
This was called an AMR, is that right?
Yeah, an autonomous mobile robot.
Mobile robot, okay.
Yeah, which there's a lot of different versions of those too. And like the video showed a couple different examples, but some of them are, very tailored to a single process. Some of them are for shipping. Some of them are for wrapping. Some of them, it's just a robot arm that moves stuff around. And this one is definitely, it's pretty versatile, mainly for kind of transporting stuff around a facility. But I mean, even just to be able to reduce that strain of maybe you don't need to lug your toolbox around, or, you don't need to carry this part from here to there. You can just put it on this robot, send it on its way, and you don't have to worry about it, crashing or, getting distracted or anything like that.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice interview. Yeah, good job, Peter.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, even Greg was talking about just the hype around Automate and the amount of traffic that each of the booths were seeing. I think he talked about it being tripled.
Yeah.
It just felt like there was a lot of hype in 2026.
And from pretty much everybody I talked to, that was kind of the theme that I got is, it was so much busier. It was so much, not even just more people, but more conversations, people that are attending the show looking for solutions, looking to learn. And so you're able to have more conversations and more in-depth conversations as well.
Well, I think shout out to A3. I think they did a really good job setting it up for success.
Yeah.
But the audience, I mean, they followed through and they showed up.
Yeah.
But this isn't the end of the show season. I mean, there's lots more shows this year.
Yeah. And we have another show coming right up in a month or two, don't we?
Yeah, so that's IMTS, International Manufacturing Technology Show. Every other year. So 1 year in Chicago, other year in Europe. 1 year in Chicago, every other year in Europe. 2026, Chicago.
Yeah. It's actually at the same facility that Automate was in.
Yes, I'm excited to see what the turnout will be. So, just scope, we're talking about Automate right now. So Automate has 1,200 exhibitors, and it was big. IMTS has just under 2,000.
Yeah.
It is massive.
Yeah. And if for anyone familiar with the McCormick Center, or at least to give a sense of scope, there were 2 halls. There was a North Hall and a South Hall. Each of them, multiple football fields, massive areas with, booths up the wazoo. At IMTS, there's also going to be an East and West Hall as well. So almost twice the floor space that we saw at Automate.
Yeah. Actually, so Automate was 4 days long. IMTS is 6. So Monday through Saturday. If you're not busy in September, I would highly recommend making time to come to IMTS.
Yeah. And,
absolutely worth your time.
And Promus is going to be there.
We will. 2 booths.
2 booths.
Promus will have 2 booths. I got the numbers here. Let's see. We got 236615 in the North Hall. That's 236615. And then in the South Hall is 134031. So come see us.
Yeah.
A little sneak peek. We got brand new booth design for Promus.
Yeah.
First ever showing off some new products. IMTS September 2026.
Yeah.
We're excited.
Yeah, definitely. And not only, IMTS is just around the corner, but, Automate is a show. You mentioned IMTS is every other year. Automate is every year.
Yes.
So just a few months after that, it's actually, time for that show season to start up once again.
Yeah, so May 2027, Automate will be back again in Vegas. So come to IMTS in September, come to Vegas in May.
Yeah, and I believe this is the first time Automate's ever been in Vegas.
It is. I'm interested to see if we'll get a different type of audience, maybe the West Coast audience. I'm not sure. Automate has grown so large that they need a big area like Las Vegas to be able to handle the crowds, which is one of the reasons why they're moving to Las Vegas. I'm excited for it. It'll be fun. Robots are booming, man. It is robots, automation, AI. That's here now. It's not of the future. It's right now.
Yeah, and it's exciting just to see all these companies, each and every show, showing off their technology, showing off what they can do. And, in that time, immediately following a show, there's always so much discussion and collaboration. And even if you're not using the products, you're just aware of them. And there's just so much knowledge being shared.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Peter.
Yeah, thanks for being on here, John.
You bet.
All right. And thanks to all of our listeners out there for tuning in week after week. Once again, Automate next year is going to be in Las Vegas, May of 2027. And then you can see John at the IMTS show coming up in September.
You bet. I'll see you guys there. See you, Peter.
See you, John. And until next time, we'll see you then.
This podcast is brought to you by Promus Incorporated. Hosted by Peter Parsons, produced by Lauren Rawl, and mixed and edited by Ben Parsons. If you have any questions or would like to appear on the podcast, please reach out to podcast@promusinc.com. Thanks for listening.